Yeah. It's Sunday, boys. You know what that means. King DV, what up? Y'all check out King DV Sports on YouTube. James Zhao, Shane Butler, SY. Tim Star, what's up? Bring that beat back. Tim, I don't know how YouTube Music works, man. They got podcasts on there? DC doesn't even watch Sixers games anymore. He just comes to this show. I appreciate it. Let me take in all the misery for you. Matt L, what up? Processing Philly. I love it. Gasp at the beauty that is the Fire Glenn Run It Back Philly t-shirt, man. Link is in the description, because every time you're about to fire Glenn Rivers, every time we're really going down a serious downward spiral, and you feel like we're right there, man. We're right there. And you feel like you almost don't even want to root for your own team because you're so close to firing Glenn Rivers. Every single time, he then switches things up to save his own job. And that's exactly what he did last night. But anyway, welcome everybody. This is Run It Back Philly. I am your host, DJ Eastwood. No frauds, no fanboys, no intros. That was not an intro. That was a figment of your imagination. Hit the like button on the stream on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other podcast platform, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Subscribe on YouTube if you're not. 30% of people that watch these are not subscribed. That is fraudulent behavior, and this is the No Fraud Zone. I want to let you guys know we are now on all podcast platforms in beautiful, professionally mastered audio form from my good friend Tony Merkel at Merkel Media. Run It Back Philly is under Merkel Media on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. And I want to ask you guys a favor right now, because when you first get on podcast platforms, when you have a technically brand new podcast, what it does in the first couple of weeks is very important. So I'm asking you all a favor right now if you have an iPhone. Even if you don't plan on listening to it in podcast form whatsoever, if you have an iPhone, please open the Apple Podcasts app right now. Search Run It Back Philly or click the link that's pinned to the top of the chat and leave me a 5-star review. I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. But yeah, Tony mastered the audio, and it sounds insane. I'm very happy about that. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Merkel Media. What else we got, man? There will be exclusive videos on the Patreon this week, Monday and Wednesday. Patreon.com/RunItBackPhilly. Might be a play breakdown. Might just be some in-depth thing. Might be whatever else I want to talk about. I want to try to give you guys exclusive content on there at least twice a week. So Monday and Wednesday, patreon.com/RunItBackPhilly. If you're not subscribed there, what are you really doing with your life? And of course, buy the merch, man. Fire Glenn t-shirts. Links in the description. Follow me on Twitter at IamDJEastwood. I tweet live during games. It's probably absolutely chaotic. So if you would like some entertainment during the games, go ahead and do that. And the best way to stay up with everything with Run It Back Philly is over on the Instagram page at Run It Back Philly. I post there multiple times a day. Recently, I've been posting about Charles Bassey and what he's looked like in San Antonio and how much that's making me personally despise the existence of Glenn Rivers. By the way, Isaiah Joe, today in the first half, Romp made sure he tweeted me, because he said, I'm just here to ruin your day. Isaiah Joe had 8 points in 9 minutes in the first half for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Just to add salt to the wounds, that's what I'm here for, baby. I'm here to kick you while you're down. All right, look, I just rewatched I watched like the first quarter last night as I was getting ready, because I still DJ on Saturday nights. I'm working on retiring from doing that. So go ahead and subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/RunItBackPhilly to help me retire from DJing, and you get some exclusive content. Anyway, so that's why I don't get to watch Saturday night games live. So I just watched it on NBA League Pass. I made sure I got the Atlanta broadcast because, good Lord, I can't listen to the Philly broadcast anymore. It's absolutely just ear-bleeding material. And here are my thoughts. Okay, so the Sixers beat the Atlanta Hawks 121-109 after losing to the Atlanta Hawks, 105-88 or something crazy like that. So we put up 121. My initial thoughts are the team was a lot more locked in defensively. The team was a lot more locked in fundamentally. The team was a lot more locked in, focusing on the fundamentals, that is defense and rebounding. Like I said, every time I played ball growing up on the park, we always knew. And anytime you played organized ball, anybody that knew anything, any coach you ever had that knew anything about basketball, always drove it home. Defense and rebounding. Defense and rebounding, defense and rebounding. The offense will come. The shots will fall. The defense and the rebounding is probably still, even in an offensive-driven league in the NBA, you see what happens in the playoffs. Defense and rebounding is the most important thing. It just is. And I thought we were locked in more when it came to playing team defense and boxing people out to get rebounds. So that makes a world of difference in a basketball game. Now, last night, I was DJing a party, Permane Bros in Hershey, Pennsylvania, every single Saturday. If you're in the area sometime on a Saturday, come on over, baby. Come on over. I'm right there behind the turntables. But there was a TV, on the ceiling. It's always there, actually. It wasn't randomly there. And I was watching the Sixers game on that TV, and I just happened to look up at one point and saw that it was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. And I was like, were we not just up by 27? Were we not just up by 27? So I was like, the main thing I want to do when I watch this game tomorrow morning is find out how we were up by 27 and then it was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. And here's exactly how it happened. At the end of the third quarter, and I'm saying this, every game of every season for the past, I feel like ever since I started making YouTube content and podcast audio, the end of the third quarter, we got killed. It happens every game of every season of the Philadelphia 76ers existence. The end of the third quarter, we got destroyed. The Atlanta Hawks went on. Brace yourself for this if you don't know it. DC, you didn't watch the game, I know that. So brace yourselves for this because your brain's not going to be able to comprehend this. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you wonder who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the live chat. These post-game shows are live on YouTube right after Sixers games, and when we have Saturday games, they're live the next day. So if you hear me talking to people, it's people in the chat. Come on over to YouTube and join the chat sometime. At the end of the third quarter, the Atlanta Hawks went on a 14-1 run. That's not the worst part. That's not the worst part. We were up by 27. 27. The Atlanta Hawks went on a 14-1 run in 2 minutes. Yeah. I can't breathe. Yes, I said that correctly. The Atlanta Hawks went on a 14-1 run in 2 minutes. 2. That is a major, 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 major problem. That is a major, 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 major problem. End of the third quarter, the Atlanta Hawks went on a 14-1 run in just over 2 minutes. That is a major problem. Because if a team can go on a 14-1 run in 2 minutes, no lead is safe. None. No lead is safe. In any game, at any point, if you have the ability to allow the other team to go on a 14-1 run in 2 minutes, no lead is safe. You could be up by 50 in the second quarter and still lose the game if you can give up 14-1 runs in 2 minutes. Imagine how many times you could do that over the course of one quarter. You could get outscored in a quarter 50-21. No lead is safe. And the problem is this. See, teams go on runs, obviously. Teams go on 5-0 runs. Teams go on 8-0 runs. Teams go on 9-0 runs. But good teams stop those runs before it gets to 14-1. Good teams have somebody steps up and ends the run. Somebody. I'll name a random player who you may have never heard of. A.J. Griffin on the Atlanta Hawks, a rookie. A.J. Griffin on the Atlanta Hawks, a rookie, had 9 fourth quarter points. Every team seems to have a player like this that can end a run. Every team seems to have an NBA player that can put the basketball in the hoop and prevent the other team from going on a 14-1 run in 2 minutes. Question for the chat, speaking of A.J. Green having 9 fourth quarter points. How many minutes would Doc Rivers play rookie A.J. Green? in the fourth quarter of an NBA basketball game? If your answer is not 0, you're lying. Isaiah Joe was on like his 3rd season. Doc Rivers still wouldn't play him. Charles Bassey, 6'10", 250 pounds, can block shots, can rebound, can score around the rim. He has everything. Bro, I can't. Every time I think of this Charles Bassey thing, I go sideways. I can't handle it. How? Are we over 30 seconds in? All right. I want to warn you. I'm going to say an explicit word. How the fuck does an NBA coach, supposed to be one of the best basketball minds on the planet, see Charles Bassey and his size, his body makeup, his skill, his defensive awareness, his jumping ability, his length, his wingspan, his ball tracking ability? How does an NBA coach that's been around this long see that player and refuse to put him on the floor on any team, let alone a team that absolutely sucks at rebounding and can't guard the paint when Joel Embiid goes to the bench? How in the world does somebody who's supposed to be one of the most knowledgeable basketball people on the planet not see something that obvious? I want to know how. Somebody has to tell me. Somebody has to tell me how. Somebody has to tell me how it's possible. All right. I got sidetracked on the Charles Bassey thing. I apologize. Anyway, the Atlanta Hawks made a 14-1 run at the end of the third quarter in 2 minutes. Tyrese Maxey is the one that ended the run, by the way. Maxey comes in and ends the run, running the pick and roll with Joel Embiid. The 14-1 run in 2 minutes, same story. You could probably guess what I'm about to say. Terrible transition defense. Turnovers. Bad shots. A couple of them from Shake Milton. I thought Shake Milton had an okay game. But, that run, that 14-1 run, Shake was trying to force things in the paint. It wasn't good. Terrible transition defense, bad shots, and turnovers. 14-1 run in 2 minutes. Maxey comes in immediately, ends the run with a pick and roll, and hits Embiid under the basket. And then George Niang gets a 4-point play in transition. Catch and shoot, smothered, red line on 2K, Walmart, Klay Thompson, bang, bang, George Niang. How many minutes did George Niang have in this game? Because I felt like also, 14 minutes. So Doc Rivers, with his job on the line, I feel like, went with 30 Matisse Thybulle minutes and 14 Niang minutes, 14 Daniel House minutes, 7 Paul Reed minutes. Montrezl Harrell was a coach's decision, did not play. So you see what I'm saying here. How, against the Atlanta Hawks, the first game, what was that, Thursday? How on Thursday did you not have a game plan to slow down Trae Young? I can't figure it out. How on Thursday did you not say, I probably need to play Matisse Thybulle to have good perimeter defense against Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, two of the best young point guards in the entire league. They're going to kill us by getting into the lane and shooting floaters and throwing lobs to Clint Capella if I don't have strong perimeter defense. But instead, in that Thursday night game, he went with George Niang, Daniel House Jr., whoever else, PJ Tucker. So it takes him, bro, I don't think Doc Rivers watches the NBA. I think that's where I'm getting at. I think that's what I'm getting at. Do you think Doc Rivers watches the NBA? That just entered my mind right now. Does Doc Rivers watch the NBA? Does he know anything about the other team? Because what I just came to the realization that Doc Rivers has to watch a game live and see those players destroy you from the perimeter by getting into the lane whenever they want. And then he says, oh, good thing we play them again on Saturday because now I know this little Trae Young fella, he can really get in the lane and cause some havoc and do some damage. Now that I saw this little Trae Young fella in action, now I know that when we play them on Saturday, I have to play Matisse Thybulle and I have to play George Niang less minutes. Now I know that I need perimeter defense and rebounding. I mean, it's insane. How did Matisse Thybulle go from not getting off the bench the first 5 games of the season to starting? I like when the coaching staff makes the right decisions, but it's so frustrating that it takes them watching Trae Young in action to know that the next game, this is what you have to do. How did you not learn that from at least the playoffs 2 years ago? And I just came to the realization that I actually think Doc Rivers does not watch NBA games. He doesn't know anything about anything that's going around the league. He just does his podcast talking about politics, and he golfs. That's it. And then he shows up to the arena, and he's like, all right, let's play a game. Here we go. All right, so, we end that run with Maxey and Embiid and Niang, the 4-point play, and then the Hawks make a run in the fourth quarter. They go on a 9-2 run in the fourth quarter because of, again, terrible transition defense, bad pick-and-roll defense, letting DeJounte Murray get in the lane, do whatever he wants. And again, offensive rebounds. Clint Capella in 2 games absolutely murdered us on the glass. What did he have in this game? In this game, he had 15 rebounds and 6 offensive rebounds. Last game, he had 7 offensive rebounds and 20 total rebounds. So Clint Capella, 35 rebounds in 2 games and 13 offensive rebounds. So that's part of the reason they made that run also. And yeah, AJ Griffin had 9 points in the fourth quarter. Trae had a ridiculous baseline drive, up and under, layup, and then he kind of somehow, some way, no look passed it all the way out to the 3-point line for a wide open 3. That's just Trae Young. There's not much you can do about that. I do want to give credit to Matisse Thybulle because with 1:30 left in the game, he caught the ball in the corner with the shot clock running down, and he was so wide open. He could have held a Zumba class over there on the corner of the court. He had that much room. And he hit the shot. Matisse Thybulle, the Atlanta Hawks were playing him in those final possessions like I would play him, like the Toronto Raptors played him in the playoffs last year. They completely let him go. They didn't guard him at all. And he, with 1:30 left, made the defense pay for that decision by hitting the 3. And really, when I watched it back, that saved the game for us. They were making that run. They turned it into a 7-point game somehow, and Matisse Thybulle hit that 3. So shout out to Matisse for coming up big because, again, that's the only reason you would question whether or not you can play him against certain teams, right? Because if he can't at least shoot a decent percentage from the corner 3, then he can't make the defense respect him, and then you're playing 4-on-5. So I was very, very happy to see him not only make a wide-open 3-point shot, but for it to be with 1:30 left in the game, after the Atlanta Hawks made that run, they were closing in. It was getting real nerve-wracking after being up by 27 in the third, and he hit that shot. So shout out to Matisse. I love that from him. I really hope he can keep it up. If he can become a decent 35 NBA average, it's all we need, Matisse. Your defense is good enough. Your defense is incredible. And he keeps getting better defensively. He keeps getting better at guarding without fouling, He keeps getting better at staying on his feet on pump fakes and not jumping at jump shooters on the three-point line. He keeps getting better defensively, and he's already easily one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league. If you can just be an average three-point shooter, then you can be a seriously, seriously valuable player. So shout out to Matisse Thybulle for that. Joel Embiid did play my guy Sean Bernard had a tweet. Did he play the entire fourth quarter? Joel Embiid played the entire fourth quarter. I think he played the last 12 minutes and 30 seconds, actually, of this basketball game. And, of course, yeah, he had an amazing game. 42 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4 turnovers, 5 fouls, but a really, really, really good game for Joel Embiid. I thought he was locked in from the jump. I thought he was looking right in Clint Capella's soul and saying, if you guys aren't going to double team me, I'm getting a bucket every single time I want to. And he didn't stop. And he had his jump shot going, and he had the turnaround fadeaway going, and it wasn't just the ISO ball either. The pick and rolls with Maxey, he was catching the ball. He was making quick decisions. He was catching the ball. If it was an ISO, it was a one-dribble jump shot, or it was a quick move to try to get past the defender. Then running the pick and rolls with Maxey, he was making quick decisions. He was catching the ball on the run. He's doing this thing that I don't think I've seen him do a lot in his career because he's never been a roll man, because he's never had a real point guard. Cough, cough, thank you for 5 years of nonsense, Ben Simmons. But he's doing this thing now where he rolls, he catches the ball while he's rolling, and he doesn't stop and dribble. He keeps it going and just takes 2 gigantic 7'2" strides to the basket. That's really hard to stop. I want to see more of that from Joel Embiid. So the Atlanta Hawks' decision to not double Embiid cost them. I know it worked out for them in the first game. They were like, we're not going to double Embiid. Basically, our strategy is we're going to let Joel Embiid do whatever he wants, and we're going to stop the rest of the team. And if Joel drops 50, it doesn't matter because we're going to hold them to 90. You know what I mean? That was clearly their strategy. It worked in game 1 because everybody was just horrendous in game 1 against the Hawks. I mean, on Thursday night, not game 1, but the first game against the Hawks, which was Thursday night. And then Embiid made him pay for it in this one, dropping 42 and 10 and 6 assists. But I think the player that made him pay for it more than Joel Embiid, because we know Joel can drop 42, and the Atlanta Hawks know Joel can drop 42. And like I just said, they were willing to single cover him with Capella because they were basically like, we'll let him drop 42. We're going to stop the rest of the team. So the player that really made them pay for that decision was Tyrese Maxey, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say this. This might be a hot take because he had a 44-point game already this year. He had a 40-some point game in the preseason. He had a 39-point game last year in the COVID whatever. This is the best game Tyrese Maxey's ever played. Last night, against the Atlanta Hawks, was the best game so far in Tyrese Maxey's career, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it's not about the scoring at all. We know he's a bucket. I just said last night, and I don't know if he watches the show or not. Maybe he does, because 24 hours later, he was like, I'm going to shut this DJ Eastwood guy the hell up. I just said last night, or Thursday night, post-game live, I just said, Maxey's a 2-guard. Maxey's not a point guard. I just said that on Thursday night. 48 hours later, he shows me that he's a point guard. 48 hours later, he goes for 9 assists. And it wasn't just the assist numbers. And that's an amazing number for Tyrese Maxey. 9 assists is amazing. Tyrese Maxey was playing a man's game last night. Tyrese Maxey looked like a veteran NBA point guard last night. His confidence level was off the charts. He looked comfortable. You know, we talk a lot about how with Embiid on the floor and other scorers, he kind of looks unsure of himself. He kind of forces shots. Doc Rivers had a quote after Thursday's game about this, saying that like when you can tell when Maxey isn't sure of himself and looks unconfident, and then he doesn't really know when to get the shot off, and then he just kind of forces some contested threes and things like that, and it doesn't look natural, it looks forced. Last night, he looked like he let the game come to him. He looked 100% comfortable. Running the pick and roll with Joel Embiid, he looked like he knew exactly what he was doing. He looked like he was a step ahead of the defense the entire game. He looked like controlling the ball in the pick and roll situations, Trae Young. He looked as locked in and as a step ahead of the defense with the ball in his hands as Trae Young does. I was just insanely impressed with Tyrese Maxey, with what he looked like with the ball in his hands, going right at the defense, taking what they give you, but really pushing the issue, making them make decisions and making the right reads. I've never seen Tyrese Maxey play the point guard position like he did last night. And 48 hours ago, I said, he needs a point guard on the floor. He's clearly a two-guard. He's not a facilitator. And he comes back Saturday night and shows DJ Eastwood, hey, you dumbass on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify and other podcast platforms, you have no clue what you're talking about, bro. No clue. So shout out to Tyrese. I thought he was the MVP of this game. I know Joel dropped 42, but Tyrese controlling the game at the point guard position the way that he did last night was what won the game for the Sixers. That's where I'm at with that. He was 10 for 18 from the field. He was 3 for 5 from 3. 9 assists, 3 turnovers, had a steal, had 2 rebounds. He was a plus 24. And his plus 24 was the highest plus minus of the game. Tyrese Maxey was a plus 24. That was the highest plus minus of the game. It helps that every time you sit, the team blows the lead. That helps your plus minus. But he was a plus 24, and that was higher than anybody else on either team in that game. So amazing game from Tyrese Maxey at the point guard position. Knowing when to pass the ball, making the right reads, and then knowing when to attack the rim and get his shot off and, get his floater high off the glass or pull up for that mid-range or, drive into his left baseline fadeaway jumper. It gives me Allen Iverson vibes sometimes. I loved it from Tyrese Maxey, man. I loved it. Matisse Thybulle starting. Like I said, he hit that 3. That was huge. And if he can continue that, he can be a very valuable player. And I just thought his defense on Trae Young was night and day difference from what we tried to do on Thursday night. Putting Matisse Thybulle on Trae Young changes the game. Changes the game. I mean, come on, man. The guy's Trae Young's 5'9.5". Why would you not put a 6'7" NFL defensive back on him, who has a 7-foot infinity wingspan, and make him work extra hard for everything that he likes to do? Yeah, like I said, it took Doc, watching the other game to find out who Trae Young is. But yeah, Matisse Thybulle on Trae Young was awesome. That was a huge part of taking this game. We did blow a 27-point lead, though. That's a huge problem. And no lead is safe if you're going to blow 27-point leads. No lead is safe if you're going to blow 27-point leads, man. No lead is safe. And Michael Miller, shout out to Michael Miller. Thanks for this comment. Why does Joel Embiid have to play 40 freaking minutes? This ain't the playoffs. And my guy, Tony Merkel, who put my podcast under his media company, Merkel Media, he texted me actually today. And he said, actually, let me just go read it, man. If Embiid feels after this season the ship won't be corrected, if he voices for a new coach, you might see him request a trade. I feel like he's getting disenfranchised. And look, Joel played 40 minutes in a regular season game in November. That's not okay. Joel Embiid played the last 12 minutes and 30 seconds of this game. He played the entire fourth quarter. That's not okay. We already know Joel Embiid doesn't have the endurance. If he's playing 40 minutes in regular season games in November, is he going to have anything left in the tank by the time the playoffs come around? So that worries me. I am glad he's looking like he's back in basketball shape, you know. He said he didn't do anything in the offseason. We thought he was joking. Turns out he was telling the truth. He didn't do anything in the offseason. He came in looking entirely out of shape. Plantar fasciitis, schmashiitis. Don't give me that crap. I don't want excuses. Took him 2 weeks to get in shape, but we're here. Joel Embiid's in MVP form. We're here. So that's good. But he can't be playing 40 minutes. And I agree with my guy Tony, and I agree with you guys that say this, that I think Joel Embiid's going to get tired of physically. He's going to get physically tired, but he's going to get tired of having to put this entire damn team on his shoulders. And I know I know James Harden's out, and Tyrese Maxey did his thing in this game. But who else? Tobias had 21 points. But only one other player was in double figures, and that was Shake Milton with 11. And you get 2 from PJ Tucker. You get 3 from Matisse. You get 4 from Niang. You get 5 from House. You get 7 from Furkan in 4 minutes off the bench. And what he did... Was that the first half Furkan was in? Going crazy? The second quarter, I think? Don't hold your breath for that to happen again, by the way. But yeah, I think Joel Embiid could possibly get physically tired. We know that, but mentally tired and emotionally tired of having to put this entire team on his back. I think he wants to get to the point where he doesn't have to play 40 minutes in a regular season game in November and drop 42 and 10 to narrowly escape the Atlanta Hawks when you were up by 27. You know, so these kind of performances, it's a great performance, but this can be frustrating, I think, for Joel Embiid. I really think that. I think he might be out there like, man, I got to play the entire fourth quarter just for this team to have a chance to win a game that we were just up by 27. Part of that could be rotation decisions. You know, he did call out Doc Rivers after Thursday night's game, and he said, you know, when he took me out, this is actually interesting. I said, you know, I had that rant about Doc playing George Niang at the 5 at the end of that third quarter. So Joel kind of calls him out and says, when I came out, you know, that's when the game changed and they ran away with it. And then Doc says, okay, fine then. I'll leave you in. So what are we doing now? Battling our own players? I don't know what's going on. I do think Doc Rivers has no idea what he's doing with the rotations. You know, what he did for the first 5 games and what he's doing right now looks entirely different, not just with James Harden being injured, but who he's playing when he's playing them. I mean, we went from Montrezl Harrell playing 30 minutes in a game, getting smoked defensively and on the offensive rebounds, to being a defense, a did not play coach's decision. We went from Matisse Thybulle being glued to the bench to playing 30 minutes in a basketball game. It just tells me that Doc doesn't really have an idea of what's going on. He's just throwing things at a wall. All right, well, then I'll do this, and then I'll do this. So the problem with that is that you can't bank on any consistency. And a lot of people might say, you always complain that Doc Rivers doesn't adjust, and now he's changing his lineups to try to win games, and you're mad about it. I'm not mad about it. I like that he's changing his lineups to try to win games. What I'm not feeling too good about is that it's not going to be consistent. You're going to see 30 minutes from Matisse Thybulle in a win. You're going to see Montrezl Harrell DNP. And then there's going to be another game where Matisse plays 8 minutes randomly. There's going to be another game where he kills you in the third quarter again by deciding that George Niang's a center. There's going to be those games. They're going to happen again. This is why I say don't get too high and don't get too low. Because we've seen it time and time again it seems like he figured it out. It seems like he fixed the issue. It seems like, oh, look, he gets it. He gets what we were saying. He's not going to admit it. He's going to go up into press conferences and argue with all the fans and the reporters. He's going to act like it was his idea. We've seen it time and time again. He played DeAndre Jordan last year in the playoffs. The media had to literally bully him into playing Paul Reed at the backup center position. And then he plays Paul Reed the whole Toronto Raptors series, and we win the series. So we thought, hey, Doc figured it out. Paul Reed's a backup center. Paul Reed needs to be on the floor. Paul Reed can rebound. Paul Reed can play defense when he's not fouling. It's not the perfect option, but it's better than DeAndre Jordan. Right? And he comes into this season. Guess who's glued to the bench? The backup center that won a freaking playoff series for you last year. So that's all I'm saying. When Doc has his lineups right and you win a game, don't get too high. Because he's going to bring it right back. He's going to bring it right back. Babyface Ham, thank you for the kind words about the podcast. He's going to bring it right back. I'm just saying, I know I'm being negative. I have no faith in Doc Rivers whatsoever. There's none. I don't have any faith in Doc Rivers. I do not have any, not 1%. You know, and I was reluctant to say this last year. And early on doing YouTube and the podcast, I wanted to make everyone happy. You know what I mean? There were so many times, months, during even the Ben Simmons debacle in Philadelphia. There were so many times where I went far. I went close to 100% honest. And people thought that was too much. People were coming at me every day. I like your podcast, but you're too hard on Ben Simmons, you know? I like your podcast, but you're too hard on the guys. And in my mind, I was like, I'm not even being 100% honest, bro. I'm taming it down for YouTube. You know, I had to have faith. I had to try to keep everybody in spirits and keep everybody thinking we have a chance to win. I didn't believe that. I did not believe that with Ben Simmons on this basketball team, handling the point guard position for 35 minutes a game, playing that disgusting form of basketball, dribbling across the half-court line and handing it off to Seth Curry, who then has to try to run a pick and roll, and he's not a freaking point guard. I had zero faith that we could win anything with that being the main thing that's happening on this team. But I didn't say it. Because in the beginning of YouTube and podcasts, I thought, like, I can't be ultra negative. Everyone's going to unsubscribe or whatever if I'm like, this team sucks and we have no shot. But I realized slowly that's not the case. You guys respect honesty. I should have said right then, this team is going nowhere with Ben Simmons. This team's going nowhere with Doc Rivers. Just is what it is. I'm happy when we get a win. I'm happy when he does when he gets his lineups right. But don't hold your breath. He's gonna bring it right back, and I'm just I think I'm glad. I feel like I'm relieved that I'm up here in front of this microphone being 100% honest about this team. There's a 0% chance this team wins a championship with Doc Rivers. Just a fact. Process in Philly, when we be honest about the team, we're fake fans. It makes no sense. You're absolutely right, bro. And I follow you on Instagram, and I don't know if you've been doing them lately. Have you been doing the lives lately, where you like go live watching the fourth quarter of a game? Those are sheer entertainment. If you guys aren't following Process in Philly on Instagram, go do that. He goes live sometimes during the games and gives his opinions, and they're great because he's 100% honest. But yeah, I realized over the years too that when you're 100% honest and it seems ultra negative, the people that hate it are not real Philly fans. And they call you a fake fan for being negative, and they call you a fake fan, and they say, why don't you go root for another team? You know, those Sixers groups on Facebook, there's so many casuals in there. It hurts me. Physically, I feel a pain in my chest. There's so many casuals in those Facebook groups. They have no idea what they're talking about, ever, at all. So anytime somebody says something negative about the team, they call you a fake fan. I don't even go in there anymore, bro. I only go in there to advertise t-shirts. I only post my ads in there and I bounce. I don't read anything in there. Yeah, they call you a fake fan, but really they're not watching every play of every game. They're not intently like analyzing the team. They do it with the Eagles, the Sixers, the Phillies. The people that analyze the team sound negative because there's a lot of things wrong. It's just the way it is. It's been 40. The team hasn't won a championship in 40 years. You know? The Sixers, the Celtics, the Lakers, that was the run of the NBA. In the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. The 90s, the Sixers fell off hard. And they haven't gotten back. The Celtics came back up. The Lakers came back up. Lakers are bad now, but I'm just saying the Sixers used to be an NBA juggernaut. And they haven't been back to the NBA Finals. Well, yeah, they have Allen Iverson, but they haven't won an NBA championship in 40 years. So we're frustrated. So the real fans are usually frustrated. And also this. A lot of people that comment, you got, you know what I mean? You got to really learn how to just ignore, and I got to get better at it too. I'm trying to get better every year at just ignoring nonsense, especially, you know, the more and more attention I get on the internet, the more I'm going to hear nonsense from random people. I'm trying to just keep getting better and better and better at ignoring things by just telling myself, this is somebody that does not understand what I'm saying. So we're not on the same page. We're not in the same book. So what's the point of having this discussion or argument, right? So I ignore it. It's a lot easier that way. And that mute button on Twitter, boy, that mute button on Twitter is glorious. If I haven't responded to you on Twitter for a while, you're probably muted. But, yeah, all I'm saying is, man, yeah, they call you a fake fan when you're negative. A lot of them also just started watching the Sixers, too. You know, you got to understand that, too. The process is like 8 years old. You know, a lot of these kids were, and this isn't a shot to anyone that's watching right now who's 15, 16, 17 years old. But a lot of people have some kind of ego. You know, they started watching basketball 3 years ago, and they have this kind of like, I know what I'm talking about and you're an idiot thing off the rip. You know, I started watching basketball when I was 12, 10, 11, 12. But I would never jump in something when I'm 15, 16 years old and act like I'm an expert on it and tell everyone else they're an idiot when you literally weren't watching basketball before the process started. You know what I mean? So you got to take that into account too. For those of us that watched it for this long, we failed in the Allen Iverson era. After that, we sucked for a long time. I'm pretty sure 2005 to about 2012, we were mid AF, as the kids say. Sometimes we were just good enough to squeak into the playoffs, but we were not good. You know, we thought Andre Iguodala was going to be the next superstar that's going to lead the team somewhere. It wasn't good. Evan Turner, terrible. You know, it was bad for a long time. And then the process starts. They tank. Then we're 3 years of absolute tanking, and we have a 10-72 season. And we gotta go through that, knowing there's going to be a light on the end of the tunnel. There's going to be a light, you know. Watching Ish Smith throw alley-oops to Nerlens Noel and losing by 35 points every night is going to be worth it because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And then the light at the end of the tunnel comes, and it's Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid ends up being a superstar. The other guy who was supposed to be the second superstar ends up being the biggest fraud I've ever seen in my entire life. Outside of basketball, on a personal level, the biggest fraud I've ever seen in my life. So the frustration is like, 100 times what it normally would be at just a random losing NBA season. No, we went through 8 years of a process. And it still doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? The frustration, of course, is going to be at an all-time high for people that put time in watching this team for that long, thinking they were going to get a light at the end of the tunnel. And now we're dealing with this. Last night was a step in the right direction. But this team still has a lot of issues, man. A lot. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, man. Anyway, let's look at the Jazz versus the Sixers tonight at 7:30. The Utah Jazz are 10-3. The Utah Jazz are 10-3. Am I right about that? Let me find out. Let me find out here. Well, what are we on? Sunday, November 13th. Let's check the box score of the OKC. OKC just put up 145 points on the Knicks. And Isaiah Joe had 8 points off the bench. Yeah. Yep. I always like to see if the Spurs are playing too, because I want to see what Charles Bassey's doing. But they're not. So tonight, Utah Jazz, Philadelphia 76ers. The Jazz are... What, bro? Why is NBA.com so bad? Why can't you just show me the team's record? Where's the team's record, bro? All right, the Jazz are 10-4. And the Sixers are 6-7. The Jazz, traded away Rudy Gobert, which ended up being an amazing trade because they got 5 first-round picks out of it, and the Minnesota Timberwolves tried to stuff him next to Karl Anthony Towns like a bunch of idiots. When are GMs going to stop trying to go against the grain? Oh, the league's moving towards, faster pace, more three-point shooting, guard-heavy. Yeah, let's go against the grain and play 2 centers at the same time, and not only that, give up 5 first-round picks for it. Ridiculous, terrible decision by the Minnesota Timberwolves. But the Jazz trade away Rudy Gobert. They trade away Donovan Mitchell, which sucks for them. I thought that, they were going to try to build around Donovan Mitchell once they traded Rudy Gobert. But it turns out Donovan wanted out too, because let's be serious, who the hell wants to live in Utah? I'm pretty sure they don't even have legal alcohol in Utah. It's like 3% or something. Like the only beer they're allowed to sell in Utah is like 3% beer. Yeah. Keep me far away from that state. My God. Anyway. The Jazz surprisingly are 10-4. Lauri Markkanen looks like he's, finally playing like the player he was supposed to be coming out of the draft. Who else is playing really good for the Jazz? Let's look at their roster. Let's look at the Jazz roster. If I knew how to do that, I would do that. Jazz. Teams. There we go. Utah Jazz. It's in alphabetical order, but you have to know the alphabet to be able to find it. There it is. Utah Jazz. I just want the roster, bro. I don't know how to use NBA.com. I always have to go back to my Yahoo app on my phone. It's just the easiest thing to use. Everything's right there. All the information you need. You can go right to a game, Sunday, Jazz. You can click on the Jazz, and boom, you can hit roster, and there's the whole roster. Why am I trying to use NBA.com? It's terrible. It's a terrible website. Let's look at the Utah Jazz. They are second in the NBA in points scored at 118 points per game. That doesn't bode well for us. They are 12th in the NBA in field goal percentage. They are 13th in the NBA free throw percentage. They are 8th in the NBA in three-point percentage, They are first in the NBA in three-point shots made. First. We're going to have some perimeter defense out here. 16th in the NBA in total rebounds. 5th in the NBA in assists. 5th in the NBA in assist-to-turnover ratio. And 14th in the NBA in block shots. Lauri Markkanen's given them 22.3 points per game so far on 34% from the three-point line, 53% from the field, 8.5 rebounds and a block per game. Lauri Markkanen's having a damn good season so far. Jordan Clarkson's given them 18.6 points per game. Colin Sexton is giving them 14 points per game. Thought his assist numbers would be higher, but I guess they were right in Cleveland, man. He doesn't pass the ball. He only is averaging 1.9 assists as a starting point guard. Kelly Olynyk is giving them 12 points per game. Malik Beasley, 11. Michael Conley's still there. Taylor Horton Tucker coming off the bench. Rudy Gay coming off the bench. Who's hitting all the threes for them, man? Lauri Markkanen 34%. Jordan Clarkson shooting 40% from three. Colin Sexton shooting 39% from three. Kelly Olynyk is shooting 55% from three. Malik Beasley shooting 42.4% from three. Michael Conley shooting 38% from three. Jared Vanderbilt is shooting 50% from three. Bro, they have 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 players shooting over 40% from three-point range. They have 2 players shooting over 50% from three-point range. They have 6 players shooting over 38% from three. So, yeah, there's all the Utah Jazz stats. That's what we have to look forward to tonight. Let's look at the Sixers. Now that we got all those from the Jazz, let's look at the Sixers rankings around the league here. The Philadelphia 76ers are 24th in the league in points scored. The Utah Jazz are first. We are scoring 109 points per game. In today's NBA, that's not good. 17th in the league in field goal percentage. 6th in the league in free throw percentage. 7th in the league in three-point percentage. 9th in the league in three-point shots made. That's actually not too bad. For, how we think this roster's built, that's actually not too bad. So Jazz are first in the league in three-point shots made. We are 9th in the league in three-point shots made. The Jazz are, what did I say, 16th in the league in rebounding? We are 30th. I just gagged for those listening on the podcast. We are 30th in the NBA in rebounding. My brain hurts, man. My brain hurts. You had Joel Embiid and Charles Bassey both on your roster. And you released a 6'10", 250-pound rebounding center. That's just mind-numbingly stupid every single time I think about it. I get mad again every time. That is Brett Brown trading Mikal Bridges on draft night level of incompetence. I mean, that's really up there with pissing off the Philadelphia fan base. And then Charles Bassey had a historic night. He did something off the bench that nobody's ever done before. Insane. And it just happens to be Greg Popovich who signed him and used him. The coach that Doc Rivers thinks he is. You can't write things better than this. Anyway, I went off on a tangent on the Charles Bassey thing again. It just absolutely pisses me off. I haven't been that angry about something basketball related since about a week ago. Anyway, the Sixers are 22nd in the league in assists. Obviously, that jumps up when James Harden's on the floor. 6th in the league in turnovers, 13th in the league in assist-to-turnover ratio, and 19th in the league in block shots. So Yeah, we got to try not to get out rebounded in this game. We'll see if that happens. Doc Rivers' lineups against those players are going to be interesting. Lauri Markkanen scoring the way that he scores from the perimeter and all over the floor, and his rebounding and his shot blocking. Jordan Clarkson, Malik Beasley. We're gonna see what happens, man. I'll be interested to see if Doc Rivers starts Matisse Thybulle again, or if that was just a one-time thing against the Atlanta Hawks. We'll see, man. But hey, I want to say thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with me today on a Sunday. Please hit the like button on YouTube. 157 people in here. I think I deserve 157 likes. Link is in the description for the Fire Glenn t-shirts. And please, please, please do me a favor. Everyone that's listening on YouTube right now, please, even if you don't plan on using, even if you don't plan on listening to this in podcast form, please go to the Apple Podcast app and give me a review and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. You guys are awesome. You have a great rest of your day. Actually, I'll see you again in a couple hours because we're going to do post-game live right after the Sixers-Jazz game. So we'll be back up here in about 7 hours.